everyone, Connie from the Painted Photographer here. It's that time of year again. Sonnet's Maker's Box. This is the November box and it is filled with so many fun things. I can't wait to show you. It's got some holiday Santa in it. It's got some pretty Christmas colors. And I had a really fantastic idea for one of the papers that's in here. So I hope you follow along and see what I do with them. There's a playlist for the rest of the creators for Sonnet's Maker's Box. You can see the link below. And there's also, if you want to skip the wait list and hop on to Sonnet's Maker's Box, there's also a referral link below that you can just skip right over that wait list and get right into this box. It is packed full of craft supplies that you will use up every month. Thanks so much, and I will see you at the end. For project one, we're starting out with this gallery frame. It had some wording on it that was raised up. You want to make sure that you sand off that wording so that it's not underneath your paint and it shows through in a definite line. So we're going to start out with using the fusion color called Ash. This is a beautiful black color, and we're going to paint the entire thing in this ash to help cover up that wording a little bit more than what I need for the white base that I'll need on here. So we covered the entire thing with the ash paint. This is a one-step paint, no need for any wax or sealer. This has got the sealer built into it, and it's also self-leveling. Next, we're going to paint the inside of this frame with the DIY in White Swan. This is going to be the perfect white back and make our decoupage paper stand out a little bit more. For the center of this frame, after it has completely dried, we're going to use the rice paper Merry Saint Nick. Isn't he just the sweetest little Santa? I can't paint Santas. I don't know how it even worked. So we're going to use my favorite combo of DIY's liquid patina and the heavy gel matte medium. The heavy gel matte medium makes sure that the paper sticks down and stays stuck down. If you would like to order the heavy gel matte medium, I will put my Amazon link below. Now I wet my paper and then I place him right into the inside of that gallery frame and go over with my DIY liquid patina brush and just add it over the top. And then so I can have the same finish all over the entire frame, I paint the entire frame with that liquid patina. Next, I'm going to sand my edges of my frame and give it a nice distressed look versus the solid black look. And this is just the way I like it. You can keep it solid black if you would like. Now I'm going to go in and make sure that my decoupage paper has a good clear coat of the liquid patina. So I'm going in with more liquid patina, making sure that I give it another coat to protect it from the wax that I'm going to be putting on the rest of the project. So here we're going in with the dark wax, and it opens up the wood grain and it just darkens it and gives it a nice, clean, fresh look to it. So here's this project. I do love this Santa. Let me know what you think. We're going to take these two simple candlesticks that I found at the Goodwill store and we're going to paint them with the DIY's White Swan. This is just 2 coats of the White Swan over top of these candlesticks and let that dry, and then we're going to distress them. This was a really simple, easy project, but it's also what sells for me. White candlesticks with a little bit of a distress sell really well. So this was perfect for the maker's box with the white swan paint.
Come home and spend Christmas with me. Spend Christmas with me. No more long distance love. Come home and spend Christmas with me. Baby, loving you gets more cruel day by day. When I am right here and you are a world away. Stop this foolish business. Come home and spend Christmas with me. Spend Christmas with me. 'Cause all I ever wanted was for you to spend this Christmas with me. What are emails and text? Some words on the phone. To having you next here in the dark all alone. Stop this business. And for Christmas, come home. Spend Christmas with me. Spend Christmas with me.
I have these trees. If you watched one of my last videos, you'll know that I had these trees lining a sidewalk when I used to have a craft sale. So I decided to paint them white using the parchment from Fusion Mineral Paint because I'm going to put Royce's decoupage paper. This one is called North Pole Plaids. And one side of this fits onto those trees perfectly. So I'm just going to cut out those squares and use the two plaids that match and then the one that doesn't.
Spend Christmas with me.
A tip for decoupaging is make sure you wet your paper. It opens up the fibers and it stretches it. And if you don't wet your paper, it's going to stretch for the first time when you put your liquid patina down. Then I place it where I need it. I roll it back. I use the DIY's liquid patina and I place that onto the board. Next, I use the heavy gel matte medium, which ensures that I get this paper to adhere and not pull up. If you've ever decoupaged and you had your paper pull up or your edges pull up, that's because it's not quite strong enough to keep it down. So this heavy gel matte medium is a game changer for me. And it's thick, so you have to mix it with the liquid patina. You could use it full strength, but it's going to be very thick. You can see I got to just roll it off of my brush. That's how thick it is. So mixing it with the DIY's liquid patina is the trick. After that had completely dried, I came in with my finger sander and I sanded off the edges, giving me a nice sharp finish. These trees are completely done. I coated them with DIY's Big Top just to give them a little bit of shine, and they are completely finished. I love this look. It's kind of like Ralph Lauren. I had more spindle candlesticks that I painted in the parchment with Fusion Mineral Paint. That does not need a sealer, but it also cannot wet distress off. So I used my finger sander and distressed the edges of my candle holders that I used just by cutting up some spindles.
but one of them was square, and I decided to use this napkin that Sonnet gave us in this box. And so I put the napkin onto this wood spindle and wrapped it around, just using the DIY's liquid patina for this project. The napkin is so much thinner than the decoupage paper or the rice paper that using just DIY's liquid patina is going to be plenty to hold this on. Then I also used the wet tear method to create some jagged edges so that it didn't have a sharp look on the edges. This project is finished. These are going to make some pretty fancy bottle brush tree holders. For our next project, I got this tray from a girlfriend who had picked it up for me. It had vinyl letters on it, so I used my little glass scraper and scraped off those letters. I thought once I started them I could peel them off. No such luck. I had to scrape them with the razor blade, every single letter, to get all of that wording up, which you don't want to paint over top of these vinyl letters. You want to make sure that you pull them up. We're again using the white swan to go onto the bottom of this tray to be a good base for the decoupage paper that we're going to use. So this decoupage paper is called Santa's Greetings. It is from Roycycled. It was in Sonnet's box. It is packed full of amazing images of Christmas, and it was hard to decide which one to use, but I really did like Santa in his sleigh. So we're going to use this portion right here. I'm using my fingers to score around that bottom of the tray so that I can cut that out and have it fit perfectly within that tray. You want to make sure that you cut it just a slightly smaller than the circle because those fibers will stretch and you'll have an overlap. So we're going to put this on the exact same way that we did the last decoupage paper. We're going to mist it and making sure that it's all smoothed out when it's misted because those fibers do stretch. So we're going to stretch it, and then we're going to use that same combo of liquid patina and the heavy gel matte medium. And I will put this on, let it dry, and then we're going to finish the sides of this tray. To finish the sides of the tray, we're going to use Fancy Farm Girl. I really do like this color. I don't use it enough, but it is a very, very pretty green. It's a nice green for Christmas. It goes really well with the image that is in this decoupage paper. So I painted the inside and the outside edge of this tray in the Fancy Farm Girl. And then I took Carnival Red and I painted the handles in Carnival Red for that fun, kitschy type Christmas look. And this tray is going to be complete. I just need to put some clear coat on here, which I am using Big Top, and then I am going to use some DIY dust in the color Warm and run it around the edge of between the paper and the tray just to give it a finished look. This next project was my problem project. Nothing could go right with this project, but I finally made it work and I think it's my favorite. So I had this book I bought at a thrift store and it was full of music, but like four corners of music. I'm not really sure what this was for, if it was for teaching, but 34 pages were missing out of this book. I'm not sure why, but it started at page 35. So we're going to complete the cover of this book. So I used the Fusions parchment and I decided that I was going to cover the whole thing in the parchment because I want to put a paper on the front of here. But the whole thing was bleeding red. I've never had a book do this to me, but it was bleeding red. So then I thought, well, what does the DIY paint? Well, that's in the center. That bled red also. So we're going to take the DIY's Salvation Solution and cover the entire front and back side of the book with Salvation Solution so that it no longer bleeds red. And we'll have to repaint it white again. So I got out my DIY's White Swan and I painted the entire book with the White Swan. So now the book is painted white. It's completely dry. It has no more bleed through. We're going to use the paper that's in this box called White Birch or Winter Birch. And we're going to make the edges torn, which this is called the wet method. You just take a paintbrush and you dip it in water, and then you can tear your rice paper and give it a torn edge versus the straight line. This will make your edges disappear onto your project a little bit more than those stark straight edges. So this white birch is a beautiful paper, and I thought it needed to look like a book. And that's where my head went with this paper. So I wet the paper and I laid it onto the book where I wanted it, and I decoupaged it on with my same mixture. And then we're going to do a really fun technique with this book.
I've got a mistletoe in my hand, and the boys are lining up for my kisses are for one special guy. He's a dreamboat of a man, my own sweet buttercup. I'm just so wrapped up by his presence. So let this mistletoe moment be that brand new start.
This rice paper is from my last fall winter collection. This one is called Faithful Foundations. You can find it on my website at thepaintedphotographer.com. I went and I cut this church out, and this is called fussy cutting. So I fussy cut all the way around my church to make sure that I got all of that backing off of there. I even cut off the cross because I can just add that back in when it's on my project. So I didn't use the trees because I already had white birch on the background that this was going on. I did not need those trees. So I'm going to cut the entire thing out and use that church on my book.
Fused together to Christmas hearts. Let this mistletoe moment give me everything
I used my decoupage medium and I put it onto this paper and decoupaged my church right into the center of those trees. I did not want to go over top of the trees because it has to look like it's pushed behind them. The trees are the center stage. I wanted this book to have a new, like, snow look to it. So I went in with my white swan and I added some white swan to the church. When I put the church down, I should have painted it white on the back side so it would have not picked up some of the colors from the background. But we're just going to paint it white and we're going to go with it. Like I said, this book gave me many problems, but I worked through them all, and it's just paint. Just keep going, keep adding those layers. You'll end up with something that you really do like. This might be my rice paper, but it's your art. Make it the way you want it. And that is the joy of the art paper, is you can add to it. Next, I added a little bit of weathered wood to my white swan, and I went around the entire outside of the book, blending it into the pages. And this will give a more seamless transition from the paper to the book. Then I wanted it to have kind of like a frosty look, like you were looking through a window. So I went in with the white swan and stippled over top of the edge of the paper, and just stippled within the rice paper onto the edge of the book, and went totally around this, giving it the nice winter frosty look.
even knows my name, but that we will remedy right here by the Christmas tree.
Now we're going to add some fresh snow to the top of the church and to the tree branches, wherever I wanted the fresh kind of snow look to be. I also added a cross to the top of the church again, and I did add snow to the ground, giving it a fresh new look of snow. Sometimes the rice paper will have kind of a not a bright white look because of coming through the printer. So this just adds a really fresh white look to your painting. And this turned out so well. I was really pleased with it. And I did want to make sure that the snow matched between the birch trees also. So I made sure I went in and cut inside the birch trees to make them stand out and be the star of the show on this. Even though the church is tucked back into those birch trees, I did really want the birch trees to stand out. I got this inspiration for this rice paper when we were on a side by side ride. We were going through the woods, and the white birch were just standing out. And they were so beautiful this time of year with no leaves, just the white birch. I did end up using a little bit of weathered wood in my white swan so that I could make a path from this church, because you hate to have a church that no one can get to. So we made a little path right inside this birch opening that we had, and this project is complete. Let me know what you think of it.
Hear him see me standing there. The world will disappear and he will vanish. So let this mistletoe moment be that brand new start. Let this mistletoe moment fuse together to Christmas hearts. Let this mistletoe moment give me everything I want.
I did want the edges of this book to look a little old and dingy, so I used clear wax, and then I also used the DIY dark wax, and it just waxed over my book page edges and just aged them up a bit. This also gave the front of the book a little aged, uh, so I just blended that in, and then I added a little sparkle glitter to the snow and completed it with a ribbon.
So let this mistletoe moment be that brand new start. Let this mistletoe moment fuse together to Christmas hearts. Oh, let this mistletoe moment give us everything we want. Everything we want. Everything we want. Everything we want.
Next, I picked up these canisters. Someone had painted them black, but it was all coming off. I used the milk paint in Suitcase, and I went over the entire canister and the lids with the color Suitcase, covering up that black look that was scratching off. I didn't know if this would crackle or chip, but it was worth a shot. If it did, I didn't know what was going to show through, the black or the aqua. I was just going to go with it. So I went in with 2 coats of that Suitcase. You can tell that the second coat covers so much better than the first coat. And then I let that dry, and I still had no cracking. I was very thankful that there was no cracking at this point. Next, I went in with my DIY's Salvation Solution because I wanted to make sure that the green color that we're going to put on in Basil from Sweet Pickins does not take off this brown. I didn't want to go through to the black or the aqua color. So using Sweet Pickins milk paint, it's equal parts water and paint. And I mixed up way too much here for this small project, but my scoops were bigger than I thought. So I ended up painting more projects, but that's the beauty of milk paint. When I have extra paint, it's gonna go to waste, so you better dig something else out from your stash and paint it. And this color basil is amazing right now. It is a great Christmas green color. So I painted all of that with the basil, 2 coats, let that dry, and then I came in with an IOD transfer on the back side. One says keep and one says prep. And so I went in on the back side of these canisters with Santa's Hollow. And that Santa was really stinking cute. And since we are using Santas from the rice paper and the decoupage paper, I thought it was good to go with another Santa. So I picked out the Santa and the other label design on the back side of these canisters. They had no chipping or cracking. I was very thankful for that. And I cut a straight line on Santa, and then using the IOD tool, I transferred the transfer right onto the project. This milk paint had dried for at least a day, so make sure that your paint is completely dry. And I did not seal it because I wanted to use the dark oil wax over this milk paint. And if I sealed it, the dark oil wax would not have the same effect. So I made sure the milk paint was completely dry and then put the transfer image on there, and it came off beautifully. I had absolutely no problems.
Making our Christmas memories. I've been working so much lately, I can barely find the time to sleep. Yeah, I spend my time running around, keeping people pleased. But this is my favorite holiday. It's a chance to start over new. Cause I missed you, so I'm letting go of everything but you. These are the good times with you. Baby, this year it's just gonna be you and me. Hang by the fire and chill. Isn't this how it's supposed to be? Making our Christmas memories. Oh, and I've been longing to hold you close. Forget about everyone else. Isn't this how it's supposed to be? Making our Christmas memories. Oh, oh. Christmas memories. I've been wrapping presents for you. I've been hanging marbles in the tree.
I did have to sand the top and get some of that paint off. The lids were fitting really, really tight and scraping some of that paint off anyway. So I took my finger sander and I scraped it all the way down to the aqua color. They're going to have a lid on anyway, so it will not matter. But now the lids just fit like they should. Now using Sweet Pickins dark oil wax, I put it into my little container with my scruffy little brush there, and then I went right over top of the transfer with the Sweet Pickins oil wax, and it worked perfectly. So if you've been undecided if you can put the dark oil wax over top of a transfer, this is your proof that you can. I let that set on the canisters for about 10 minutes. I wiped it off, and they are the most beautiful green Christmas canisters that you will ever see. And then when Christmas is done, turn them around and you can use them all year long.
So you should come back home to me.
I hope you enjoyed that video. It was really fun to put together. Using Sonnet's Maker's Box takes me way out of my comfort zone and gets me right into the creative spirit. And especially there's kind of a uniform look to all of the pieces in her box, which makes your entire vignette just seamlessly go together. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you would like any of the projects that I made here today, they'll be listed on my website. If you need any DIY, IOD, or Sweet Pickins milk paint, you can stop over to my website at thepaintedphotographer.com and I'll ship them right to your front door. If you're local, I sell my DIY paint and other products at Medford Foreman's Farm Home in Medford, Wisconsin. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy painting.